All right, hello everybody. This is Community SIG Architecture for May 28th. And looks like we have a couple of agenda items. Uh, Patrick.
Yeah, I can go. That was not a pun. I can go and start talking about Go API changes. This is something that I've been working on for a while, and I want to move it forward. I think it's ready. All the two PRs that I have are ready to be merged. It's now looking for reviewers, someone who does the final approval. And I'm coming here to the meeting to give you all a quick summary of what this is about. And as I said, look for a reviewer. So Go API changes have traditionally been not well defined in our docs. All the API change documentation is about the user visible Kubernetes API. And as a result of this ambiguity, people have handled Go API changes very differently, sometimes doing them very carefully, sometimes not, sometimes documenting them as Kubernetes API changes, sometimes not. And I've tried to summarize my impression of what the best practices are in this document, which currently lives under the community repo devel, contributors devel SIG architecture. And I think that is a good place, but it was also questioned by Ben whether it should move to the dev side. At this point, I think because we are establishing official guidance in a way through SIG architecture, this is the right place because then it lives alongside other documents like how to do the actual Kubernetes API changes. The gist of it is that in depending on where we have a Go API in staging, we have different levels of stability that we aim for, but it's not ironclad. So there are exceptions, and sometimes we just make changes because sometimes it's just easier or inevitable. So I hope what I wrote down is more or less okay. I saw that David commented on earlier. This was on one of the advisors in that document. I got at some point someone saying that it would be good to have a full documentation of how to maintain a Go API. This document is not meant to be about that. I think Go ecosystem has better guidance on that. So if we want, we could even cut some content on how to handle Go API changes, but some of this may be useful. So I try to find some middle ground where I'm pointing to some examples and what we've done in the past in Kubernetes. So that is that document. And then the other thing is something that Antonio originally started, making the whole process a bit more enforced. Antonio started with dumping the Go API of, say, client Go and API machinery into a file, and he still has a PR on that somewhere pending. And his aim with that was to actually enforce that breaking API changes get called out. But this approach with dumping the API, that wouldn't have been possible because there's no then the part about doing a diff was missing. I started instead doing the same thing based on API diff, which is already a tool that we are using. It emits a report about incompatible changes, and the API diff repo has a very long definition of what that is. We've so far not done much with that output. We have a few proud jobs defined but get triggered if you say modify client Go, but then it's still up to the reviewers to react to that report and pay attention or not. This tooling here is meant to get to a point where breaking Go API changes must be acknowledged in a PR and documented for users so that consumers of our client Go package then see what API changed, why it was changed perhaps, how they should deal with it. And that is done in a changelog MD file that gets created in the root of, at the moment, client Go and API machinery. the tooling enforces that this file gets updated if API detects a breaking change. That's basically the second PR. There is the way how it's done, how it looks to users or contributors is that there is now integration into make verify, and therefore our pull Kubernetes verify job. There is a hack verify go API docs script, which runs API diff, identifies breaking changes, and then looks in the changelog MD file for a copy of that breaking change. If it's not there, it fails because the documentation is missing. There is one PR at the top of this one. If you scroll down a little bit further, well, go back to the PR description. I have a second PR where I'm demonstrating what this looks like. Yeah, that's the link. I was applying that to one of my own pending client Go PRs. The first bullet point shows how it fails. Verify fails because I did not document that. So there is a failure in Go API docs, and it ends with instructions. You can also click on the failure in verify above itself. That's a bit more focused than the full output. It ends with the instruction of what was detected, how to fix it. You can run hack update Go API docs locally. You can also do that in advance and then immediately include the updated documentation. It also shows it shows a patch if that's what you want to do. So I try to make it convenient, but it is another thing that contributors need to do. So that's why I'm coming here with basically asking SIG architecture for the blessing that we want to impose that additional work on our contributors. Yeah, if you go back to this PR, yeah, that's the output. Basically, it shows all the incompatible changes. Some changes are inevitable; they get filtered out as acceptable. I'm not sure whether I have it in that example, but there's also an allow list in the hack repository because some API changes for some actual Kubernetes v1 to v1 beta v1 change the client Go generated code. That is an API change, a Go API change, but it gets ignored. So one earlier concern from Jordan was that we have too many of those that are okay. The tooling is aware of that, so that's not an issue anymore. If you click on the client Go documented discovery API break link in the third bullet, that was one where you just had your mouse. That is what I changed manually. So the first, what's removed here is the generated code that comes from update Go API docs. It basically just tells you what to do. I went and edited that file, included as much information as I found useful for someone being faced with a compile error. And then at the bottom, the unchanged lines, this is what the tooling looks for. These are the actual breaking API changes. This is exactly the API diff output. Yeah, that's roughly where I am at the moment. In terms of moving forward, probably the first step would be to, well, yeah, merge that Kubernetes PR, but that immediately means that this will be enforced for other PRs going into 137, because we need to keep that file updated. Then if that Kubernetes PR is merged, I can update the documentation PR. At the bottom, there is a to-do about explaining a little bit more about how this tooling works. Obviously, I can only do that if I know what the final version of that tooling is. So, but the goal would be to merge both PRs relatively close to each other. Yeah,
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Any comments, any thoughts for the live discussion, or we defer to the PRs?
I just wanted to say thank you. I've had difficulty keeping up with the reviews on this, but I think this is a really important area.
Yeah, then let's make it happen.
Yeah, awesome. All
Thanks.
right, thank you, Patrick. That looks great. We make our consumers' lives a little easier. Um, all right, Janet.
Right. I would like to quickly talk about the new sub-project of pickups. It's called Agentic DevOps. And and yeah, would you help present that? Yes. So we now have two new repos. One is called DevOps Bench. The other one is Cube Agents. So basically, I also linked to the original proposal of the project. And the goal is to try to provide a framework for us to verify and benchmark how the agents perform the DevOps tasks on the platform. So this is an effort for focusing on the agents for doing the DevOps and operations, both on benchmarking and both for providing a reference agent for running those tasks. So this is still very early. We're going to introduce more yards to the repo. It's currently empty right now, and I've already seen a bunch of people in SIGApps expressing interest in collaborating. So this is just FYI and for awareness. If folks are interested or have feedback, please feel free to let us know in SIGApps.
Okay, awesome. Uh, so this is the proposal here. Janet, this document.
Yes.
Okay. Did you want to go through it at all here, or just want people to do it offline?
Yeah, folks can read it offline because we already got the proposal approved and the repo are already created. So
Okay.
we can continue the discussion in the Slack channel or in the repo directly.
Okay. Awesome. Uh, well, that is our whole agenda. Does anybody else have any thing they would like to discuss? Otherwise, we can wrap it up and get some time back.
Wait, Janet, I just joined. I just saw this. We have been working on similar projects, so would be definitely reaching out to discuss if and how we can work together.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thanks everybody, and have a great rest of your week.
Thanks.